So it was interesting when I did start my own business, the first thing I started doing was, oh, I'm going to create my PowerPoint with my services, and I'm going to get my letterhead, my business cards, and all of that stuff. And then I looked around the room and said, but I got no clients. I got no clients to share this PowerPoint with and do all of that stuff. I realized the thing that I needed to do was shout loudly and have my name known. So my advice to people out there is you may have a product or service, but I will tell you, unfortunately, you may not be different from the next Joe, Harry, Sue, what have you. You need to differentiate yourself. And so, even though you may have a great service, you need to think about what is your brand? Who are you? What do you say or think or do differently? And start being that person that doesn't necessarily try to keep up with the pack.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. If you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Deborah Coviello. And Deborah started her journey in high school, loving the liberal arts, went off to college. After college, got a high-paying job and worked in a manufacturing job for about 20, 25 years. And then got her in quote-unquote dream job, at a high-level job at the corporation. After a while, decided wanted to change and to move back into more of the creative side. So left that job, rediscovered what she wanted to do, and started her current business. So with that much as an introduction, welcome on the podcast, Deborah.
Hey, Devin, thank you so much for having me. And hopefully, I can impart a few insights for your audience. I've learned a lot along the way.
Absolutely. Looking forward to hearing a lot about your journey. So I just took the whole journey and condensed in the 30-second version, but why don't we rewind and unpack a little bit and tell us a little bit about how your journey got started in the liberal arts and or liking liberal arts while going through high school.
Yeah, thank you for so much for that. It's interesting. I did start out with what one would call a liberal arts background. I love speaking, I love writing, I love painting, I love singing, and all the while my family thought that I was going to be going into something like journalism. And at the end of the day, I don't know what happened. My brain got rewired. I started getting interested in science, math, technology, went into high school, went into the honors track, and oh my, I became a geeky engineer because I was good at problem solving. But the interesting thing that kind of ties this all together is a lot of engineers are kind of introverted and quiet. And I would say, yes, I had to do that to process information. But all along the while, I'd always been a creative. I always asked why? And I will tell you along the way, elementary school, middle school, high school, people didn't appreciate me asking why. And by the way, talking too much. So society pushed me down into just being a quiet, introverted engineer. And as I moved through corporate manufacturing, honing my skills in quality and operational excellence, I did what they wanted me to do, get the results. I got the promotions and kept moving up. But I will tell you,
So
fast forward. Go ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
or not fast forwarding. We don't want to fast forward too quick. So
Okay. I'll slow
let's
down.
unpack that. So you went into college, and what degree did you earn while you were in college?
Oh God, yeah. I was a geeky biomedical engineer and I love biology. I love the physical sciences, but then I said to myself, I don't have time to go to medical school. I don't want to spend my whole life in school. So I said, let me switch over to an engineering degree so when I get out, I've got something practical and hopefully high paying. So biomedical engineering and then guess what? I never ever actually applied that. But what I did learn from engineering was how to problem solve and logical thinking. So that naturally took me into the manufacturing world, where I actually did enjoy the creative process of taking nothing and turning it into something. So
So going to that part of the
yeah.
journey. So you go into you're come out of school, going to manufacturing now. Did you work for a big corporation? What kind of manufacturing? Kind of walk us through a little bit of where your journey started in the corporate world.
I appreciate that. Not a lot of hosts ask me those details, but they are a lot of who I am. So I work for a major company, Raytheon. Raytheon is a military defense systems company, a global company. And I had the good fortune of actually going into their manufacturing management development program. So for 2 years, I did a tour of 4 6-month rotations that took me through quality, production planning, supervision, industrial engineering or process engineering. And then at the end of the 2 years, I got to interview and say, I want to go into quality, compliance, auditing, doing things right the first time. That was something that really resonated with me. So Raytheon Company, a good post for about 7 years. Went into some smaller electronic manufacturing companies, and then eventually I went into Lucent Technologies. You may have heard of them, and
Mm.
went into a joint venture with Philips Consumer Communications. So again, that was a multinational joint venture where I cut my teeth into quality engineering. I learned about product development, what it took to take smartphones, computers, et cetera, and then have it manufactured in Mexico. So I got to travel a little bit to Mexico and see how all of that went together.
Now,
I worked,
one kind of
yeah,
question, just because you
yeah,
progressed through a few different companies or different industries, what kind of
sure.
led you to do? In other words, you started with Raytheon, you go to the other ones, and you kind of
Okay.
move back and forth, or what kind of led to the switching between the different companies?
Really great question. So the first one was purely family. I was living in New Hampshire with my husband. Raytheon has a big hub in the New England area, but we were missing our family down in New Jersey. So about 7 years into an excellent job, I decided to find a new job that would bring our family back to New Jersey so we could spend more time with family. Well, guess what? I was with a job that I probably shouldn't have taken. It was a complete mismatch of my skills, and later was probably let go after 5 months. So we don't talk about that one on the resume. But then I got into RF and microwave devices. And in that company, I was there for 3 years as a quality supervisor, quality manager. And then a recruiter called me for the big bucks and a big job. And that's when I got pulled into Lucent Technologies. So just about every single move I made was for a bigger opportunity and probably more money. Philips Consumer Communications lasted about 18 months. And then the joint venture said, this isn't working anymore. We're going to send you back to Lucent, send people back to Philips Electronics because they were going to downsize us after 60 days.
Hmm.
That's when I moved to one other company, Tellium, a startup optical networking company from I'm not, I was there for about 3 years. I started out as a quality manager, became a quality director over optical networking equipment. The company went IPO and thought I was going to retire very, very rich. Unfortunately, at that time, the dot coms went bust. I also was expecting my third child. They decided to gracefully let me go and got to spend the next 9 months at home enjoying motherhood and family. So there's a little bit of a break there. But I will tell you then the next 15 years was really when I came into my own. I took a new job and I said, I don't want to be the big boss anymore. I just want to be an individual contributor. So I got a job in a completely different industry in the chemical flavors and fragrance industry and started as a quality engineer, then quickly got moved up to a quality supervisor, then a quality manager, and then over two divisions. It was interesting. I had gone from being a high level C suite leader to an individual contributor in a completely different industry. But lo and behold, as soon as they saw what my talents are, they just kept promoting me and promoting me and promoting me. So I
Hmm.
did a good run at that flavors and fragrance house for 9 years. I got called because I was starting to look for a new job. I'd gone as far as I could. They couldn't promote me anymore, and I wanted to have a greater impact. So lo and behold, after that, the number one global flavors and fragrance house gave me an offer to join them. And I did 7 years at that company. And that's where I got into my dream jobs. I was the vice president of operational excellence over 8 manufacturing plants, and then later promoted into the vice president of quality, having the responsibility of quality and food safety, which was an incredible risk that I took, but obviously a huge, huge growth experience. I was in that incredible job for about 7 years before I then decided to start my own business.
Hmm. So now, how, so you were in that job, position for 7 years. So,
Yeah,
in various aspects, you're either, working for corporate or you're doing startups, but hadn't never jumped into diving in or jumped into doing your
that's
own business. So kind of what led you to decide, hey, I've had enough, working for others. I'm going to go my own way or try my own thing, or kind of how did that progress for you?
so I used to not own up to this. I used to say I made the decision to go in another direction, but after a while I said, I got to own it. The last year or so in that last job was extremely stressful. And I was also starting to feel like I didn't fit in anymore. That creative person started coming out. I started asking questions of why. I started becoming a different kind of leader. But by the way, I was getting better results. And I think I probably rattled some cages along the way because of the things that I was starting to say that we needed to change and do differently. So at the end of the day, we decided to part ways, but they did it very, very respectfully because I put in so much time at the company and had done such great work. So I got
Hmm.
this incredible severance and gave me a runway to say, now what? Now what? Now what am I going to do? But there was two things in my head. I said, I do not want to go back working for a large corporation or one where my values and the culture were just a mismatch. And I said, you know what? I think I can do this same work, providing value, but I want to do it for the small and medium sized company because they truly value my skill sets, but they can't pay for a full time person. But I might be able to make a significant difference in a small amount of time. So I started my own business, Illumination Partners. I later came up with the brand, the Drop In CEO brand. I drop into businesses, partner with C suite leaders to help them navigate different challenges with confidence. But the other part of what I love to do, because I was a struggling professional, I didn't have a support system. So, another part of what I do is I help C suite leaders who are not yet in the C suite, who have not started their own business, help them with all the essential skills that nobody taught me. I had to figure out on my own. So, I also help the C suite leaders of tomorrow. And it was the best decision I ever made to go into my own business.
No, makes perfect sense. Sounds like you found a great setup and a great place to be. So now, the question is, you helping C-suite individuals, helping them, build and grow their business can be rewarding, can be fun. At the same time, how did you go about building the business or finding people that were wanting to hire you or clients and kind of growing it on that side?
So that's where I am still a work in progress. That is the beautiful part of trying to figure it out. But the thing I did in the first 6 months was heavy networking. I didn't have a huge external network. I went immediately to LinkedIn to find all my first degree contacts, started networking with them, didn't even have an elevator pitch about what is it that I could do for them. But I will tell you through that very, very active networking in the first 6 months, through my first degree connections, I got referrals to second degree people who might be able to use my services. So the beauty of it was I got three clients in the first 6 months. And
Hmm.
I thought I had this thing down. And a couple of the clients came and won, but one lasted 16 months. So I figured it out. And then I realized I didn't because I didn't understand sales and marketing. I was a geeky engineer that knew how to provide products and services and solve problems. I did not know anything about what it was to consistently be marketing myself, consistently looking out
Hmm.
for business. And I'll tell you, I had a bit of a dry spell, but that's okay. I figured it out. But now I'll tell you, I am now figured out who is my target client and laser focus on putting my message out there and really trying to find the right people. And again, they are the C-suite leaders. I connect with them. I try to figure out what are the problems I can solve. And I do a bunch of different things. Again, it's through podcasting, it's through networking, it's through all the content that I write. And little by little, and persistent quality of that information 4 years in, I am starting to get the inbounds versus the
Hmm.
push. I'm starting to get pull. But I'll tell you, it's been an arduous process trying to figure that out and putting enough out there so I become relevant.
No, sounds like quite the journey. So kind of now with that experience in mind, that, that background and figuring things out and continuing to figure things out, where do you see the next 6 to 12 months going for you guys?
So I just want more. So the next 6 to 12 months is I really want to find at least one or two more clients. Usually it is the CEO of the company or a founder. I would like to be able to have three such clients that use me on a fractional basis because I personally can sustain that work. After
Hmm.
12 months, I need to find people to replicate my skills. But I will tell you, these last 4 years of networking, I have fractional COOs, CIOs, CTOs. I now have a lawyer in my back pocket if I need one here. I have a huge network because I would love to be able to scale just beyond me because I can only work 60, maybe 70 hours in a week. I need to be able to scale it. But a couple more C suite leaders that I can help, business owners, et cetera. But I also would like to also grow my community, the Drop In CEO Collective, where I can help 6 to 10 high performing individuals who are just trying to get into the C suite. And I see the early indications of that being happening soon.
Well, sounds like it should be an exciting
Oh,
year ahead, and lots to come, and a lot of areas to expand and grow into. So that's awesome. So,
and one more thing I didn't mention, it is a second book. So I wrote The CEO's Compass, meant for the C-suite leader that is sometimes or small business owner getting off track. There is a
hmm.
second book in 2024 meant for the CEO's apprentice. That is the person who is trying to get into the C-suite. So that will be happening in the next 12 months.
Well, that sounds like it'll be an exciting book, and certainly
Yeah.
one that people will have to pick up. So awesome. Well, now as we've kind of reached the present day of your journey and even looking a bit into the future, great time to transition to the two questions I always ask towards the end of each episode. So we'll jump to those now. So the first question I always like to ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made? What'd you learn from it?
So I'll repeat what I said before. It was the biggest learning, was not constantly looking for business while I was working. You just think or you assume that the work is going to come, and that wasn't. So even at times when I feel like I'm at capacity with the current clients that I have, I am continually in pursuit of new business, not thinking about, do I have the capacity? But I have to fill my pipeline. I have to fill it with conversations because if they don't need me now, they might need me in the future. The worst thing that happened to me was having a dry spell. And dry spells are okay. You don't have to be busy all the time. It gives you time to reevaluate, but I never, ever want to be there. So, lesson to be learned is as a small business owner, startup company, always be in pursuit of new relationships and new business.
No, I think that's a great one. And sometimes it's hard. You're always having a balance of, hey, I've got work to get done, I have things to get, clients to keep happy, things to do, and yet if you're not always building the business, you're not or consistently doing the activities to bring that in, you'll get through the current work, and then you're kind of hit those dry spells. And so it's a
Mhm.
great, it's an easy mistake to make, but great one to learn from, and one where you're always looking how to continue to build a business and drive that new client or acquisition. So second question now that I like to ask is, so if you're talking to someone that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one piece of advice you give them?
So it was interesting when I did start my own business, the first thing I started doing was, oh, I'm going to create my PowerPoint with my services, and I'm going to get my letterhead, my business cards, and all of that stuff. And then I looked around the room and said, but I got no clients. I got no clients to share this PowerPoint with and do all of that stuff. I realized the thing that I needed to do was shout loudly and have my name known. So my advice to people out there is you may have a product or service, but I will tell you, unfortunately, you may not be different from the next Joe, Harry, Sue, what have you. You need to differentiate yourself. And so, even though you may have a great service, you need to think about what is your brand? Who are you? What do you say or think or do differently? And start being that person that doesn't necessarily try to keep up with the pack, but try to be somebody different. So, in my case, I am a business advisor. I'm a fractional chief quality officer, fractional chief operations officer. They're a dime a dozen. And there's no competing and there's no catching up from that. But then through a series of activities, and I was interviewed on a podcast, I came up with the drop in CEO. There is no other drop in CEO. And when people say, "What is that?" And I said, "Well, that's what I do. I drop into situations, I partner with the C suite leader, assess the landscape, and provide a solution that gets them to a place of stability and performing. But also with the brand, I elevate the leaders of tomorrow." And when people hear that, that differentiates you. And I need everybody out there to think about, how am I different? Because you are different. You have unique skills and experiences and ways you can serve people. So figure out what you are, who you are, and what you do differently. What is your brand message? What are your talking points? And be able to articulate it over and over again, because ultimately it's not about a handshake. It's not about the coffee and the business card. It's about being memorable. And each time I show up and I say, "Hello, I'm Deb Coviello, the drop-in CEO," I immediately get people's attention. And I think that's probably the best advice, is just don't go so fast to say, "I got to get my product or service to market." And it is important, but think about how you can be differentiating and be memorable.
No, I think that's a great takeaway. And, sometimes there, as you mentioned, there's a lot of people that have a lot of great products and a lot of great services that they offer, and how to distinguish and differentiate yourself both in the marketplace and the mind of the consumer can definitely be a great boon to the business. So, well, now as we wrap up the episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
So I just want to say thank you, Devin, for giving me the opportunity to share a bit of my story. And I will talk to anybody and everybody, and I'm very accessible. There's two places you can reach out to me. I'm very active on LinkedIn, Deborah Coviello, or the Drop In CEO. Message me on LinkedIn. It is me answering all of those messages. The other place that you can go to find more about my services, my products, et cetera, is my website, dropinceo.com, dropinceo.com, and click on contact me. And again, it is me answering each and every one of those messages. Would love to just get to know you. What's your business opportunity, and see how we can collaborate from there.
Awesome. Well, definitely appreciate you sharing all that, and encourage everybody to reach out, make a connection, support a great business. If nothing else, make a new best friend. So with that, thank you again, Deborah, for coming on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you, the listeners that are out there, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, we'd love to have you. So just go to inventiveguest.com, apply to be on the show. A couple more things as listeners. Make sure to click share, subscribe, leave us a review. Helps us to reach even more startups and small businesses to help them along their journey to success. And on that note, if you ever need help along your journey with patents, trademarks, or copyrights, just reach out to us and go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Well, thank you again, Deborah, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you again, Devin.